Welcome to Revolt Black News. I'm your host, Eboni K. Williams. Now, you heard it in the show open. We've just concluded the first 100 days in office for President Biden and his administration. But the question is, what has this administration really done for America and the Black community in that time? So here to help us have some insight, we have Senior Advisor to the President, as well as Director of the White House Office of Public Engagement, Mr. Cedric Richmond. Cedric, welcome to the show. Now, Cedric, you're one of the highest ranking officials in this administration, and we saw right after inauguration, Vice President Harris swearing in one after another of countless cabinet representatives that were diverse, many of whom were Black. Cedric, do you think that the Black community, though, feels that the representation within the administration reflects their daily life and will have an impact for them?
I do. And you're right. It is the most, if not one of the most diverse cabinets in the history of this country. You have the first African-American Secretary of Defense, first African-American female vice president, first African-American to lead the Council of Economic Advisors, first African-American to lead the Environmental Protection Agency. If you look at our policies over the first 100 days, they were all done with racial equity in mind. So whether it was the American Recovery Plan or some of our executive orders from the beginning with Secretary Fudge to root out systemic racism in housing. And so when you start to see those are the meat and potatoes issues that American families deal with. And so you're talking about home ownership, you're talking about childcare, you're talking about policing, all of those things. And I think that having a diverse cabinet allows us to really hit those issues spot on.
Okay, now also President Biden and y'all's administration was elected during this global pandemic, Cedric, as you know, and we've reported here on Revolt Black News that you all have superseded your expectations and goals of reaching over 200 million vaccination shots in these first 100 days. Now, all of that said, though, Cedric, you know very well our people's history with trepidation and hesitancy as it comes to medication and medical treatment in this country because of all the experimental things done to us historically. Do you think that the diversity of the cabinet and this administration helps with those hesitancy elements that are at play as we try to have as many folks in the culture vaccinated as possible?
Absolutely. And the two principals' desires, both President Biden and Vice President Harris wanted to deal with that. And so here's what we did. We sent out vaccines to pharmacies, and we didn't see our numbers go up in terms of minority getting vaccinated. So then what we did is we went and listed community health centers because we know that they're smack dab in the heart of minority communities, especially Black communities. We know that the Black communities trust those doctors at the community health centers. And so now we're using them. And so if we just take seniors, for example, that's where we have the best data. We vaccinated, or over 80% of seniors have received shots. And so if you're intentional about what you're doing, you can get to the result you want. So all of the things we did, whether it was investing money in Black newspapers or other places to push the vaccine, it's paying off. And then the last thing I'll say on that is we've been brutally honest with people. And so we're giving them the science. We are being as transparent as we can. And so you saw with Johnson & Johnson, when there was a problem, we didn't hide it, we pulled it, and then we put it back out there. So we believe if you give people the information and access to the vaccine, they will make the right decisions for their families.
Cedric, we've seen reports that Attorney General Merrick Garland, of course, is doing the investigation, opening the investigation in Minnesota around the patterns and practices, of course, for discrimination and also excessive force by law enforcement. That investigation is something that most people are happy to see, but it does not eradicate the brute force and deadly devastation of many law enforcement agencies in the country. Cedric, my question is, what really can be the answer beyond these investigations, which are important? Is it the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act? There's elements in that bill that do seem like they would go a long way towards eradicating the devastation with law enforcement and Black people. And if that is an answer, in your opinion, can Congress get it done?
That is part of the answer. And yes, I do think Congress can get it done. And I was a proud to co-author it when I was in Congress, and the president supports it. And we're doing everything we can to help Congress get to a resolution where they can pass it and the president can sign it. But that's only part of the answer. The other part of the answer is the Justice Department and their investigations, especially when you're talking about pattern and practice of violating minorities' constitutional rights. And so we need police departments around the country to know, to be on notice that this Justice Department, and we're not directing them to, they're operating independently, but that they're looking at how police departments, police communities all across this country. And then the last thing I'll add to that, we don't talk about enough, is that we need to look at this also as a recruiting problem. Far too many police departments don't look like the communities they police. When you combine all of those together, we think that that is the foundation to getting to where we need to be in terms of excessive force being utilized on unarmed African Americans and minorities all across the country.
Okay, couple final questions for you, Cedric. Let's talk about education real quick. We know that that can often be, an entry point to breaking cycles of generational poverty. We see this administration has recently announced a $1.8 trillion plan for universal pre-K that starts with ages 3 and 4. Now, we know off the gate that's going to save a lot of parents money on childcare and things of this nature. What are some other direct benefits to Black children in America with that type of spending plan?
Well, what we want to do is add 4 years of free public education, 2 years on the front end. So that would be your 2 and 3 year olds, because we already have pre-K 4. And then on the back end with your first 2 years of community college, or your first 2 years at a HBCU, minority serving institution, or Hispanic serving institution, because we know that education is the game changer. It levels the playing field. It allows you to pursue your wildest dreams and dictate your own destiny. And so we believe that if we can give them school at a very young age, it empowers the parents to go back and join the workforce, especially women, because the child now is actually in school learning, and they can be in the workforce. So for those who choose to join the workforce. So we look at it in a way that we think it helps everybody.
Okay, finally, Cedric, talking about helping everybody, the American Family Plan. Just give me a couple of ways in which that will directly benefit members of the Black community.
Well, it would, one, take some of the benefits from the American Rescue Plan. Remember, we reduced child poverty by 50% this year, poverty in the Black community by 34% this year, the Hispanic community by 39%, and the Asian Americans Pacific Islander community by 22%. So we're going to take that earned income tax credit that we did in the American Rescue Plan, and we want to move it to the American Families Plan, as well as the enhanced child tax credit and the child independent tax credit, because we know that so many families find themselves sandwiched in between taking care of either a young child or an elderly parent. We also go and make historic investments all across the board. And even in the American Jobs Plan, we invest $5 billion to reduce community violence across the country. And we know how important that is, especially in communities of color. President Biden and Vice President Harris have a very ambitious agenda. We passed a $1.9 trillion bill in the beginning because we needed it to get out of the pandemic. And now we've proposed the American Jobs Plan and American Families Plan so that we can invest in the future. So whether it's the care economy, our infrastructure, in the American Rescue Plan, you saw us put aside $4 billion for minority farmers that have been traditionally discriminated against by the federal government, who've seen their land be taken and all of those things. So we are proud of the first 100 days, but we'll tell you this. We faced many in crisis. We endured many crises. We've met many crisis, but we have a long way to go. And we look forward to doing it, but we're not going to take a victory lap. We're just going to keep our head down and keep working until we get it right.
Well, listen, Cedric, for the sake of our people, I certainly hope you and the administration are successful. Cedric Richmond, we thank you for your time and everything you're doing on behalf of the community. Please come back and see us here at REVOLT Black News. Thank you. All right, y'all. Now, up next, we have your headlines. But first, our good friends from Our Black Party stopped by with a word and a report card for Biden's first 100 days. Let's watch.
Hey, what's up, Revolt Black News family? This is Dr. Wes Bellamy from Our Black Party, and I'm here to provide you with our review of the Biden administration first 100 days. Now, we understand that within the first 100 days, President Biden and his administration set out a wide variety of things that they want to accomplish. However, for Black folk, and specifically for Black folk, there are a lot of things that have yet to come to fruition. Now, while we can't throw Biden all the way under the bus, we can say that as the group of people who delivered this administration, the White House, the Senate, as well as the House, we demand more, we want more, and we're going to get more come hell or high water. From the economy perspective, President Biden did an adequate job. Unemployment has consistently gone down under this administration, and Biden has created more jobs in the first 2 months than any president in United States history. The labor market is recovering, but not as strongly for Black workers. The unemployment rate for Black Americans improved slightly in March of 2021, but at 9.6%, it is still higher than all other race groups tracked by the national average of 6%, according to the Labor Department. When it comes to racial equity, the Biden administration has made promises. They've looked to make some strides, but there still is a great work to be done. To date, Congress has not passed the For the People Act or the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. The Institute of National Police Oversight Commission has been dropped. Biden's American Families Plan proposes a significant increase in the maximum Pell Grant award for students who are needing the most assistance for higher education. A $39 billion subsidy for tuition assistance for families for those who need it the most is set to go in place as a part of this bill. Furthermore, that bill is supposed to have an advantageous effect for those attending historically Black colleges and universities, also known as HBCUs, and specifically families who receive less than $125,000 per year should receive a significant uptick in the Pell Grant access. Also, an increase to the Title III Strengthening for HBCUs grant program is slated in the American Families Plan. This assistance should help with Black people. However, again, there is more work to be done. From a civil rights and criminal justice transformation, to date, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act bill has not been passed in the Senate. To date, the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill has not been passed in the Senate. To date, Kristen Clark, the nominee for the Assistant Attorney General for the Civil Rights Division, has yet to be confirmed. The Justice Department is actively investigating police practices in Minneapolis, Minnesota, as well as Louisville, Kentucky, which leads us to believe that there is some light at the end of the tunnel. But again, more work to be done, and we deserve that work. Not later, not tomorrow, but right now. There have been 5 notable and high profile instances of police officers executing Black people under this administration, and we have yet to see any emergency orders of protection, no executive orders, or federal legislation passed to protect Black people. Now, by the same notion, the Senate passed a COVID-19 hate crimes bill to fight Asian American discrimination. Where's that same energy for Black folk? It is yet to be seen. We don't need it tomorrow. We don't need it next year. We need it now. From a COVID-19 perspective, our Black Party believes that the Biden administration has indeed made strides. Biden promised 100 million COVID shots in 100 days, and we believe this is an instance in which he may have underpromised and overdelivered, as he has actually provided over 220 million COVID-19 shots during his tenure. As it pertains to Black people and COVID-19, as of April 26, 2021, the CDC reported that race and ethnicity was only known for just over half, or 55% of the people who had received at least one dose of the vaccine. Now, among this group, nearly 2/3 were white, 64%, 12% were Hispanic, and 9% were Black. These percentages show that when America catches a cold, or in this case, when America is dealing with a pandemic, Black folk have the worst outcomes. Not only do we catch a cold like the rest of the country, oftentimes we catch pneumonia, and in more instances, we die. The Biden administration and health providers as a whole have to do a better job of allowing Black folk to have more access to the vaccinations. Furthermore, there has to be a deeper level of trust that is built within African American communities and our health partners to ensure not only that this vaccine is safe, but it will be advantageous for Black. Immigration was something that the Biden administration talked a great deal about during the campaign. On the first day of the Biden administration, an executive order was signed that strengthened the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, also known as DACA. Biden has worked diligently to stop family separation at the US-Mexico border, but the issue is extremely complicated and not resolved by any means. Biden has ended Trump's executive order banning travelers from some Muslim majority communities and countries. And also, Vice President Harris is meeting and traveling to Central American countries to assist and create long-term solutions. However, the urgency that is needed to address this situation at the border is still something that requires a great deal of attention. From our Black Party's perspective, we need to keep in mind Black people are immigrants as well. The picture that is often painted when it comes to immigration are people who don't often look like us, but make no mistake about it. We are affected by immigration policies. We deserve the support from the Biden administration, and we will continue to fight for just that. Environmental justice is something that is very important, not only to our Black Party, but our communities as a whole. Biden kept his word, and he held an international climate summit virtually in April. During this time, he encouraged countries to follow the lead of the United States and take global warming seriously. This is the first administration to have an environmental justice platform in their list of things that they're looking to accomplish. We commend the Biden administration for doing so, and we hope that Black people will continue to be the focal point while we not only fight for environmental justice, but we bring forth communities that are advantageous for all people. Biden has also pledged to put significant resources into low-income communities to combat environmental remediation. He's investing $45 billion in EPA's Drinking Water State Revolving Fund to eliminate 100% of lead pipes. He's investing $56 billion in grants and low-cost loans to modernize drinking water, wastewater, and stormwater systems in rural communities. And he's also investing $4 billion in remediation and redevelopment of brownfield and Superfund sites, many of which are in disadvantaged communities. For this, we believe that the Biden administration deserves some support and kudos for their efforts. Now, we can't just talk about what's going to happen. We must put these plans into action. The same energy that was brought forth during the campaign, the same energy that was brought forth to Black folk, talking about how dire it was for us to vote in this election, how dire it was for us to be engaged in the presidential election, and how this was one of the most consequential elections of our time. That time has come and gone. Now, the promises and the checks that were made to Black folk have to be cashed. There is no reason why Black folk cannot be centered in this administration. There is no reason why Biden, who prided himself on being able to reach across the aisles and get legislation passed with both Republican and Democratic support, cannot make his words come to action. In fact, Black folk are counting on him and this administration to keep their word, and if they do not choose to do so, we will hold them accountable. We love this country, but we also built it for free. It is time for our checks to be cashed. This is our Black Party and our review of the Biden administration's first 100 days.
Hey y'all, now for full episodes of Revolt Black News, tune into Revolt TV. And if your cable provider doesn't carry it, make sure you reach out and let them know that you're trying to join the revolution. I'll see y'all every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, only on Revolt.